Hello and welcome to this newest video in the AQHA classes series by Coco RL10. Today we're going to go over Western pleasure. It's a typical class that everyone thinks about when they think of quarter horses. Well, if they know anything about them at all. Today I'm going to go over what we typically think pleasure is, what it states in the rules, how to show your horse to your advantage in the pleasure, what not to do in pleasure, and more stuff along the way. So here in this upper corner we have what looks to be a typical fancy Western pleasure horse that probably doesn't look anything like yours, or mine for that matter. They're showing at the World Show. You can tell by the dirt in the background. Sorry, I'm kind of a freak about that stuff. And it's a young horse because it's wearing a bosal. It's got its fake tail in and it looks gorgeous, even though it's a little bit angry with its head pinned back. It's also an amateur, I'm pretty sure. But let's not focus on that. Let's focus on this other picture. Look at how the horse's butts are all in a line. You don't really want that, but that's what everyone thinks pleasure typically is. But it really isn't. So today, I'm here to show you some more. In the AQHA world, we think of pleasure as something that only rich people get to do. Rich people. Rich. Dollar sign. But it's not. Anybody can enjoy pleasure and enjoy moderate success around your home shows. I'm covering this one. I'm not going in order here. What Western pleasure was designed to do was showcase the free-flowing movement of your horse in the best way possible. And we'll see more of that in a couple of seconds in the rules. Excuse me. Pleasure was originally not designed for the type of people you know now, the snobby, rich people that have it all and get it all with those beautiful horses you see. Or the crappy or the horses that are so lame because they didn't push so hard. Originally, it was not the type of people that we now think of as pleasure. It was designed for ranchers to showcase their horses to their best advantage. So ranchers, not pleasure people, were the original people. But as AQHA evolved more, so did the pleasure horses, and horses started getting specialized. So now we have the typical pleasure person, who that's basically all they do. For me, that would be really boring. So I like a mix of things, but some people, that's what they like to do, I guess.
Already done.
The evolution class, we've already talked about that. From a class that was supposed to supplement their ranching and cutting classes, so they could do something else.
There's only 25 more pages in that one. We're done with it. We'll be done with it before vacation.
Nowadays, we think of pleasure as your typical AQHA class. But really, there's a lot more that AQHA can be classified as. Hold on a sec here. I just stopped it and erased all that stuff, so I don't think it just appeared automatically. It just makes me help think better. So now we're on this one. And we think of pleasure as your typical AQHA class, but there really is so much more. And we also think only the richest of the rich can afford it. We already talked about that. There's so much more to AQHA than pleasure, as many of you know, because there's the stuff for the all-around. There's jumping, there's ranching, there's cutting. And now, we're going to focus on pleasure right now and see what it says and states in the rules compared to what we actually know it as. So here we have the rules.
Yeah, well then
I just want to state that recently there's been a lot of talk about getting back to the rules, and lots of judges will now go more by the rules than they did, say, a couple of years ago. That's just a helpful thing.
Right.
A good Western pleasure horse has a free-flowing stride of reasonable length in keeping with its conformation. He should cover a reasonable amount of ground with little effort. This means that you shouldn't hold your horse back and constrict him to a very small stride. You don't want him to go stretch out too far and look like he's over-exaggerating, but you just want all this is going to be saying, everything here is just going to be saying, we want your horse to move the way he wants to move, not the way he's been taught to move and stuff like that. So let's continue. Ideally, you should have a balanced means that your horse shouldn't be rocking back and forth too much, though we see that a lot, which is a common flaw. A balanced flowing motion, same thing, while exhibiting correct gaits that are of the proper cadence. Meaning they don't want you to go too slow, which we also see way too much of. So if pleasure was really, they should create another class for these kind of people, because pleasure really isn't about that at all. It's just about showcasing your horse. And I can kind of see that people wanted to have the best moving horses so they could beat each other, but really, it's not that bad. Really, there should be a different class called lame pleasure and correct pleasure, in my opinion anyways. You might think differently. And next, the quality of the movement and the consistency of the gaits is a major consideration. Meaning that they're looking at the movement, they're supposed to be looking at the movement rather than the bling, but as my trainer told me, you can't place in pleasure if you don't have a Harris or a blue ribbon like at a place like the Congress. I didn't show in pleasure at Congress. I did once when I was younger, but no. He should carry his head and neck in a relaxed, natural position. I'm going to highlight that, because again, that is not very true. We all know the horses' heads are very low. At the smaller shows, you will see more people looking like this. There's no other big names that are there for their points. They will judge more like this. But usually, you won't see that natural position at all. So the natural position is even with his pole level, or slightly above level of the withers, which is how your horse generally walks out of his stall, is the way they're looking for it. But if pleasure is really the way they want it right now, they need to change the rules because it doesn't match at all. He should not carry his head behind the vertical, giving the appearance of intimidation, or be excessively nosed out. They do adhere to this, so you don't want your horse to be sticking his nose out so far that it looks like he's going for a treat, giving a resistant appearance. So you don't want the horse to look like they're resisting at all. You want them to look like they're happy and having fun. Some horses don't. You should be shown reasonably. Reading these rules kind of makes me mad, but if you go to a big show, it's going to be by who they know and who is a good class that day. But if you're showing at the smaller local shows, they are going to judge pretty much on movement unless they know someone there. So this kind of makes me mad reading it because they don't adhere to most of the rules, and my horse would do better if they did. But most of it's me, I have issues showing pleasure. Anyways, that's not about me. This is the main thing here down the bottom. Do a different color for that. Oh, that's not good. Performance, condition, and confirmation. It's not a halter class, but they don't want a sway-backed horse coming into this class and trying to compete with the others, because it's really not fair to him that he has to try to move like all the other horses when in fact he's not built for that, or maybe a little old for that. Performance is the main thing, and it's number 1. This is number 2, and this is number 3. Okay, so next, wait a second. This is the pleasure look. You see, I borrowed this from the Equine Chronicle. This is a little girl named Abby Rawlings. She doesn't look like a little girl in this picture, but she has a lot of money. Her parents are rich from Australia, and I saw her at a show once, and I just picked it because I thought a good picture of the pleasure look would come up. And the pleasure look is that typical horse, I'll just highlight this here. You see the hind legs out. Look how it's moving. This one that's actually pretty good. It's not sideways at all, which is really good. And it's a young horse, I think. Okay. Its head, way below even with the pole, which will be right there. It's got the typical front leg out kind of thing going on. Gorgeous outfit, probably $5,000. Okay. And yeah, the horse is nice, your typical looking pleasure horse, but very expensive. You know what I mean. It's not a typical horse that you would So this is the typical kind of pleasure horse that you would expect to think of if you thought of pleasure. And now I'm going to go over how to get the advantage when doing pleasure. Oh wait, it's still black. How to get the advantage. I'm not good at shape lines. There you go. First of all, don't force your horse to be something that he or she is not. Meaning free motion. Free. Don't force your horse to go a small stride or stick his butt out if that's not something that he or she is comfortable with. Their movement should reign supreme. And that means that, once again, it's reiterating this, which is the most important thing. You can't force your horse to be a nice mover. He's just got to move by himself. And if you just kind of let him move on his own, don't force it or anything, don't let him run away, obviously, then you will do much better in pleasure. Remember, slowness is what we always think of, but it's not that important. If your horse is moving freely, and by freely I mean that you're not forcing him, I already explained this. That's not all that counts. Your horse, you don't have to go at a crawl or a snail's pace if that's not how your horses move. In fact, horses can't move that well that slow, typically. So you want them to go at their natural pace. When you pick up the canter, or the lope, how fast do they go? But you also don't want to go speeding around the ring, even though that's when they look their best, because that will not look good. A free-flowing gait is nice, very nice, that's what they're looking for. You need to be consistent in all your gaits, movements. You can't have a slow, choppy movement on one side and a fast forward movement on the other. I like to see consistency. Make sure horses sound. They'll DQ you if your horse is lame or anything. He must be clean. You can't look like you pulled him out of a pasture the day before. You have to be banded or they also disqualify you. And his feet need to be black.
Both phones are ringing at the same time.
413-369-4239.
Hello.
Don't hold your horse back, which is basically the same as above.
Verizon Wireless.
All the way up here.
Call from 413-369-4239.
And don't worry about it. Don't worry about showing pleasure.
Poetry and pizza.
You don't need to stress about it if it's not your best class. If it is, your trainer should be helping you.
You have a 6th grade dance?
I'm not going.
Now I'm going to go over what not to do in pleasure. There are some certain things that you shouldn't do. Don't cut people off.
I bet you do the eyes going.
Very important. Don't ride on the inside of the ring. Judges don't like that. Don't make your horse something he's not. Something I've reiterated a lot.
Abby, talk up the dance.
I'm not going.
I may do the other dance.
I'm not going, Mom. Okay?
Look to see where the judge is
I'm not going.
before you make fixes to your horse. But
Make
don't
sure I don't
constantly
go.
fix him. Don't let your horse go on the
Mom,
wrong lead.
I don't want to.
Ryan.
No,
Pace
you're
yourself
not. I don't want to.
and
Besides.
don't pick up the call for gate immediately. Give yourself time to set up.
Mom.
This has been Western Pleasure by Coco RL10. Thanks for watching, Rabbit.